welcome back, everybody. So let's jump into our journey so far. So we started this journey a few days ago, believe it or not, for those of us that are new. It's been a few days, so don't be crazily hard on yourself. But we started with the foundation of IT and said, at the end of the day, most of the time, what we do at home, honestly, we just scale it to enterprise or big organization. And we started with our home network and said, okay, what is the network? Connectivity of multiple devices, right? In your home, you have your laptop, your desktop, your printers, your wearable devices, your IoTs, your fridge, your TV, your ring, connected to a network. And we always believe, it's important to have security around the network. And we came up with a strategy that, okay, what are the security functions we need to put in our network to be secure? And you all came up with some brilliant ideas, multi-factor authentication, guest restricted um, segment or password for your guest. You also talked about making sure we change the password as frequent as possible. So you gave some brilliant ideas around, your home network in terms of securing it. Then we said, okay, a big one out there today is also cloud. Cloud is a big thing. So if you're in a meeting, you might tell people say, well, is this system on-prem or in cloud, on cloud. So on-prem simply means it's within your own location, right? It's in your premise, you're hosting it. In the cloud, we know that, let me see, let me open the floor real quick. What are some of the cloud providers out there? If you don't mind, go ahead and just type real quick. Some of the cloud providers out there real quick, let's go. So some company might have different cloud solution out there. Thank you. AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba, Oracle Cloud, IBM. Most environments will stick with those big ones. There's a reason behind that. If you're a CISO or you're a director of operation, you don't want a solution that would, God forbid, be compromised. Then they ask you, hello, why did you use this third party? And you cannot rationalize it. It looks bad, right? So people just stick with the big players. If Amazon is compromised, maybe they are hacked, the your board will be forgiven, or Google Cloud or Microsoft is hacked. It will be forgiven, right? Well, it's Microsoft that got hacked. But if you go carry a friend's company that is just starting a startup, and they get hacked, it's almost guaranteed they will fire you, right? So people play it safe. That's what I'm saying most times. Okay. So we talk about cloud. We talk about what's an application, what is a database, which is just a storage application. It's series of functions that are built to do certain tasks in general, right? So you can build application for many things. We talk about operating system. Um, then we sneaked into the world of agile. We said, okay, some businesses will build solutions in iteration, smaller chunk, right, versus doing it all at once. Then we talk about what are those core components of cybersecurity. We talk about confidentiality, integrity, availability, and non-repudiation. Those are like some very key components of cybersecurity. Then we now sneaked in and said, okay, now let's now deal with what organizations are really focused on. We talked about asset management, because at the end of the day, no matter what you and I do, ultimately you need to know how do you manage your asset? What's your inventory of your asset? You cannot secure what you don't even know you have. And gone are the days that we are talking of assets that are so big. No, this is an era where the asset we are talking about is probably a tiny flash drive. And that flash drive might have 10 terabyte capacity. And you might have just spent $300 or $200 to buy it. And it can save probably the whole data of 20 Fortune 500 in a tiny flash drive. So it's crazy the way things have changed. It's insane, right? So because of that, we said, okay, asset management, how do we manage those assets? We also talked about for every one of those assets, we should have owners assigned to those assets, the geography, the kind of assets. Then if there was an incident, how do we respond? Is there an incident response plan? Then we went further to say, okay, let's talk about vulnerability management. Vulnerability management is saying, okay, how do we ensure we can track potential weakness in all of these assets? So you have your laptop, your desktop, routers, your fridge, every one of those digital assets connected to your network. How do we ensure we scan them for potential vulnerability? Because it's not enough to tell me, there is, I have an asset. Are we checking those assets for potential weakness? Some people use tools like Nexus, Tenable, which they were, and they're big players, so they're vendors. I saw them today. The likes of Wiz, another one out there. There are so many tools that continuously help us to do vulnerability scanning. Now, for us, the question for us as GRC folks is not that you're going to be running those tools, but the report of those tools, you would take a look at them. And remember again, how many of us remember CVSS and CVE? What's the difference? Which one has a score of 1 to 10? CVSS or CVE? Oh, is the chat opened? Okay, awesome, CVSS, awesome. All right, what about which one is CVE? Serial number, awesome. Serial number. Thank you. Awesome. 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 Okay. Love it. And don't overthink it if you are new here. So just go back to that use case. You'll see it there. It's very straightforward. So what we just talked about is when you run for vulnerability, when you do vulnerability scan, it's a tool. There are so many tools out there. It's like using your antivirus. It will come up and it will immediately just pull the information. And let me tell you what I've seen. It's crazy, man. But I can see how it's easy to build so many of those tools now. Let me tell you what. So a couple of these vendors that showed me their tool today, right? So when the tool does scan, it will identify one or two gaps, right? A few of them. And based on that gap, it can fit into a large language model like your ChatGPT, Cloudy, or any of them, right? Llama. And it will just ask that AI tool, based on this case, give us your best practice and recommendation. So technically, there's no really recommendation, so to speak, like it was before that they're feeding into AI model. That's all. So it's so easy. I mean, even you and I can do it now, really. If you tell me this is a gap, I'll just put it in my ChatGPT too, and it will give me recommendation. But the difference is that they are doing it in real life, real time. So they can feed it to their leadership and it will just tell them, okay, this is what to do. But I could tell from the readout and the report that it's feeding from a large language model for sure. It's easy to know. I mean, because I could tell that, okay, this thing is feeding from AI, which is great. Okay. All right, let's take one question and we'll move on. If a cyber attack occurred due to a vendor recommendation made by the CISO, is the CISO to be just a mistake or can they also be okay. Remember, they are doing their job, right? So because I did my job based on my best judgment, does not mean I'll be terminated. The termination would be mostly if it is based on um, many times if the financial liability is quite a lot, then people get a bit unforgiving, you know. Um, so that's what I've seen. I mean, but let's face it, people know if you're firing, you know, everybody because of there was a cyber attack, you will not have anybody to work with. Remember again, for we in people that are executive, a CISO or any of those level of authorities, their average time for a CISO to be at their job is typically 18 months. So if you're a CISO and you're there for 18 months, you've tried. So because really it's a tough job. Because think about it, ladies and gentlemen, let's think about it together. You need to be right 100% of the time. How many percent does the bad guy need to be right? You know? I mean, the bad guy needs to be right only 0.001% of the time, right? That's the sad part of it. So you need to be always right. So how can you tell me, in the words of the CEO of Cisco, he said there are two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that have been hacked, but they are not aware they've been hacked. So there's no middle ground. There's nobody that will say, oh, we've not been attacked. You're fooling yourself. You're wasting your time. I think I mentioned this. I had a client, big Fortune 50 company. And in this case, for 5 years, they've been constantly attacked and they never knew. So my team, we ran analytics with this tool and it showed them a pattern that an IP coming from a location that they were not aware. So our first instinct was probably it's one of their plants or one of their vendors or their service vendors providing support somewhere. They said, no, they don't have any vendor in this part of the world. They have no plant in this part of the world. So it's been an attack for 5 years and they were not aware. Of course, it gave us street credit, like, hey, these guys know what they're doing. But yeah, we do, but we just ran a tool. We're happy we could call their attention. So they provided more, oversight on that particular plant. But this is the reality, right? Okay. All right.